Have you ever been sitting in the passenger seat, maybe on a long road trip, and noticed those tiny little black dots running along the edge of your car window? Not the windshield this time, the side windows. The ones in your door. You've probably stared at them dozens of times without ever really thinking about them. Maybe you assumed they were just decoration. Maybe you figured every car just comes that way and nobody ever bothered to ask why. Well, it turns out those dots have a story. A story that involves exploding glass, near-death engineering disasters, and a quiet revolution in how we build cars. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the surprisingly important science hiding in your car door window. To understand what those dots are doing, we need to talk about what your side windows are actually made of. And that means going back to the early days of the automobile. In the beginning, car windows were made from the same kind of glass you'd find in your house. Ordinary, flat, annealed glass. And in the early days of motoring, when cars were slow and accidents were rare, that was fine. But as cars got faster, and crashes became a very real and very deadly problem, engineers realized they had a serious issue on their hands. When ordinary glass breaks, it doesn't just crack. It shatters into long, jagged, razor-sharp shards. Shards that, in a collision, could slice through a passenger like a knife. The car industry needed a safer kind of glass, and fast. The first solution they came up with was laminated glass. 2 sheets of glass sandwiched around a thin plastic film. When it breaks, the plastic holds all the pieces together. You probably know this as your windshield. But laminated glass was expensive and heavy. Automakers needed something cheaper for the side windows and rear windows. Windows that would be opened and closed hundreds of times a year. So engineers went in a completely different direction. Enter tempered glass. Tempered glass is ordinary glass that has been heated to an extreme temperature, somewhere around 620 degrees Celsius, and then rapidly blasted with cold air. This process, called quenching, creates enormous internal tension inside the glass. The outside layers are squeezed into compression. The inside is stretched under tension. The result is a piece of glass that is dramatically stronger than regular glass. You can hit tempered glass with a hammer and it will barely flinch. But here is the fascinating part. When tempered glass does finally break, when the tension inside it is released, it doesn't shatter into those dangerous jagged shards. Instead, it instantly explodes into thousands of tiny pebble-shaped pieces. Still not ideal, but far, far less likely to cut you. This is what your side windows are made of today. And understanding how tempered glass is made is the key to understanding those dots. Here's the problem with tempering glass. You need to heat it to an extremely precise, uniform temperature across the entire surface. Every part of the glass has to reach that critical threshold at exactly the same rate. If one part heats up faster than another, you get stress concentrations, invisible weak points baked right into the glass. And a window full of hidden weak points is a window waiting to fail. Now, early in the manufacturing process, engineers had to mark the glass. They needed to print the car manufacturer's logo, the safety certification ratings, the country of origin, all kinds of information, right onto the surface of the window before it went into the oven. They used a special ceramic ink, baked permanently into the glass at high temperature. This ceramic printing became known as the enamel, or in industry terminology, the frit. Here was the dilemma. That printed ink, dark, solid ceramic ink, absorbs heat completely differently than the clear glass surrounding it. Dark surfaces absorb radiant heat much, much faster than transparent ones. So when a pane of glass with a large solid block of dark ink goes into the tempering oven, the inked area rockets to temperature, while the clear glass around it is still catching up. The result? Stress, cracking, warping, ruined glass. This was a genuine manufacturing crisis. Engineers couldn't just stop printing on the glass. Those markings were legally required in many countries. And they couldn't change the physics of heat absorption. They needed a way to make the dark printed area and the clear glass heat up at roughly the same rate. The solution they landed on was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of printing a solid block of dark ink right up to the edge of the clear glass, they broke the boundary into a pattern of tiny dots, gradually getting smaller and smaller as they moved away from the solid printed area. This is called a halftone pattern. You've actually seen this technique in a completely different context. It's the same principle used in newspaper printing and old comic books, where shades of gray are created not with actual gray ink, but with tiny black dots spaced farther and farther apart. Your eye blends them together into a gradient. On car glass, the halftone pattern creates a thermal gradient. The solid black edge absorbs heat extremely fast. The dotted transition zone absorbs heat at a moderate rate. The clear glass absorbs heat slowly. As the dots shrink and spread out, they create a smooth ramp between those two extremes. The oven heats the entire pane more evenly. The stress is dramatically reduced. The glass comes out strong, uniform, and properly tempered. That small cluster of dots in the corner of your window, behind the manufacturer's logo, is not accidental. It is precision thermal engineering, printed in ceramic ink, baked into the glass before it ever sees the inside of a tempering oven. Now, here is where things get even more interesting. The dots serve a second critical function that has nothing to do with heat at all. When your car window is installed in the door frame, it is bonded in place using a high-strength urethane adhesive, the same family of glues used to hold windshields in. That adhesive needs a good surface to grip. Smooth, polished, transparent glass is actually a notoriously poor surface for adhesives. There isn't enough texture for the glue to mechanically interlock with. The ceramic frit, the solid black border and the dotted transition zone, solves this. The ceramic material is slightly rough and porous compared to the polished glass surface. It gives the adhesive something to really sink its teeth into. Engineers call this mechanical keying. The frit isn't just blocking heat during manufacturing. It's permanently improving the bond strength of the finished window inside your door. And there is one more job those dots are quietly doing every single day. That solid black border hides the adhesive sealant from view. Without it, you'd be able to see the messy bead of glue running around the inside edge of every window in your car. With the frit, it's all neatly concealed behind an opaque black frame. Clean. Professional. Like it was always supposed to look that way. So let's take a moment to appreciate just how much engineering is packed into those tiny dots. They manage thermal gradients during the tempering process, preventing the glass from cracking or warping in the oven. They create a mechanical bonding surface that helps hold the window securely in place for the life of the car. They protect the adhesive underneath from ultraviolet degradation. And they provide a clean, finished visual edge that makes the window look intentional and polished. All of that from a pattern of dots you've barely ever noticed. It is worth pointing out that this technology has quietly evolved over the decades. In the earliest applications of ceramic frit, the dot patterns were relatively crude, uniform grids printed by hand-cut screens. Modern automotive glass uses computer-generated halftone patterns precisely calibrated to the specific geometry, thickness, and curvature of each individual window. A curved rear window on a luxury SUV has a completely different frit pattern than a flat side glass on a compact sedan. Each one is engineered separately, optimized in simulation software before a single pane of glass is ever printed. Some automakers have even begun experimenting with frit patterns that serve additional functions. Patterns designed to reduce glare, improve the performance of embedded antennas, or enhance the visibility of heads-up display projections. The humble cluster of dots is quietly becoming a platform for new technology. The next time you're waiting at a red light or sitting in the back seat on a long drive, take a second to look at the corner of the window beside you. Find that small cluster of dots. Watch the way they start large and dense near the black border and gradually dissolve into nothing as they approach the clear glass. That pattern has been carefully designed by engineers. It was tested in simulation and refined in ovens. It is baked permanently into the surface of the glass itself, not printed on top, not applied as a sticker, fused into the material at temperatures hot enough to melt the ceramic ink into the structure of the glass. It is one of those beautiful examples of a problem so thoroughly solved that the solution becomes invisible. Nobody notices the dots. Nobody wonders why they're there. The windows don't crack. The adhesive doesn't fail. The glass doesn't warp. Everything just works, quietly and reliably, for the entire life of the vehicle. That is what good engineering looks like. Not dramatic, not flashy. Just a small pattern of dots, doing its job every single day without anyone ever noticing. If you enjoyed learning the hidden story behind something you've seen 1,000 times and never thought twice about, please hit the like button. Share this video with someone who loves learning how things actually work. And subscribe for a new story every week. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.